Hi everyone, thanks for waiting. Happy Saturday for those of you that are watching live. So as always, if any questions have popped up, you can pop them in the chat. And let's get started. So today we are going to be going through single leg stretch and double leg stretch. And these exercises are actually, they're challenging, but they're super simple. So basically once you've set up for the exercises, it's just a matter of endurance basically. So we're going to start off with a single leg stretch. So I'm just going to bring the exercise up. I hope you are all doing well. We just got back from skiing, so that's what the little holdup was. John and Tig are hiding in the bedroom. All right, so let me just pause this and scrub it back to the beginning. Okay. Perfect. So you don't necessarily have to start laying down on your back, but I am. And you're just going to start by bringing your knees in towards your chest. Okay. And then you curl the head, neck, shoulders up, grab your right leg and straighten your left leg long. And then you're just going to start to alternate. So basically what you're trying to do is sustain the position of your trunk while you're moving your legs. So you can take this exercise as fast or as slow as you want. And we want to think about just moving our breath at a pace like how you would ride a bike or how you're running. You're just keeping your breath flowing through the body. Okay, and we do about 12 sets, anywhere up to 12 sets. And again, like you can see, it's pretty simple. To exit the exercise, I usually like to hug both of my knees into my chest, and then I rest my head down and then send my feet out nice and long. And that's basically it. Okay, so we already had bracing your leg on the, so we have a question here. So sorry, I'm like, there's a couple screens in front of me. So Terry asks, hi, on the last video, you talked about bracing your leg on the ground. What are things to think about to brace and not to grip? Oh, hi, Terry. I'm like, now I recognize the name. Nice to see you. So if maybe I'm going to go back to single leg stretch, but while I talk about this question or your question, Terry, so you're talking about not bracing when you're doing single leg circle, is that correct? You'll have time to answer it, so I'll go back to your question once you're there. So let's go back to talking about single leg stretch while I wait for Terry to just specify there. So the first question that I always get about this exercise is neck tension. And we can go back to our first tutorial in the hundreds, and if you're receiving a lot of neck tension, you're going to build your endurance. So maybe you start with 4 reps, you put the head down, you take a break, or you're going to put a prop underneath the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. So a ball, a yoga block, sorry, not a yoga block, a foam roller, or a Pilates barrel, something at the bottom tips of the shoulder blades so that you're still challenging your core. Yes, okay, so she's got it. All right, 1 second. And then another thing that I see start to happen, which I think is really important, I'm gonna scrub the video back. So my biggest tip for you all today is I'm going to bring up here and I'm going to pause. So if you kind of zero in at what my pelvis looks like, we are striving to work towards a neutral pelvis or a slight tilt back in the hips. So a really common thing that I see is our legs are really heavy, and as they start to move away from our center, people's back starts to arch, and then they kind of counter that by really tucking the pelvis under, almost to the extent that the pelvis is lifting up off of the floor. So I want you all to really make sure when you practice this exercise, you always feel like your tailbone is in contact with the mat. And if you're not sure where your tailbone is, put everything down on the floor, lift your hips up and physically feel around. It's your own body. Physically feel around for how low your tailbone is on your spine, and then just kind of have that as a visual in your mind when you're doing this exercise. Because also if you tilt your pelvis towards you back too much, it's going to push your upper body backwards too. Okay. My last tip is, this is called single leg stretch, so I'm just going to go here. I want you all to think about, as you're bringing your knee in towards your chest, you're increasing the flexion at the hip and the knee joint, and you're using your hands to create a good alignment, a good parallel alignment with your knee into your hip. And then your left, this is my left leg, your opposite leg is reaching long and low, and you're actually trying to open up the front of your hips. You're engaging the glute on the underside and stretching and lengthening out the front of the hip, which is a nice reprieve after all of this hip flexion. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, I think that that's pretty clear. I'm going to go back to this intro screen, and then I'm going to talk about Terry's question for a second before we move on to double leg stretch. So just to clarify what Terry's talking about, if you go back to my tutorial on, anyways, it's on the single leg circle. I talk about pushing into the arms and pushing into the leg that's on the ground as you circle your leg around as a means to kind of brace. And I think to avoid not gripping, and if you feel like the gripping is in like your hip flexor, you could try putting a foam roller underneath your ankle just to see if maybe just that little bit less range of motion helps you grip a little bit less. And then my last tip to make sure that you're not gripping is make sure your knee that of the leg that's on the ground stays just a little bit bent. Don't hyperextend the knee because that's going to make you grip in your quad and your hip flexor. But if it's the heel with a little bend in the knee, that should help you engage your glutes. So sometimes I like to lay down on my back, bend my knees a tiny bit, and just push both of my heels down into the ground to find that connection of where my seat meets my hamstring, that big muscle at the back of your thighs, before I go and lift my straight leg up towards the ceiling. So I hope that helps. And again, try a foam roller underneath your Achilles tendons if you have one, because sometimes that helps clarify things a little bit. Okay, so let's move on to our double leg stretch. So again, we're thinking these are really basic exercises, and now we're just advancing on the skills that you just did. So let me just do this. Double leg stretch. Okay, so you start off the same. If you want, you can go into this exercise straight from the other, or you can take a break in between. If you go to Joe's book, he takes a break in between, but I'm not sure if that's just because he had to take pictures and write out copy and all of that stuff. But sometimes in my APC classes, we would actually flow from one to the next to the next. So it's all about choice and if you want that break or if you want to challenge your endurance. So similarly, you are lying down on your back. You're going to bring both knees in towards your chest. You're going to curl the head, neck, shoulders up. You're going to grab your ankles. And I'm going to say something here first before we get started. Look at this position. It's the same as you're rolling like a ball. So my feet are together, my knees are open, okay, and I'm actually actively pulling, great, I'm glad, Terry, thank you. I'm actually actively pulling my chest up a little bit with my arms. So if you're in that neck tension category, use your arms here to help pull your chest up because sometimes, right, we talked about in the hundreds, it's not necessarily just weakness alone in your core. You might need a little bit of that help in that flexibility of your upper spine. So I really encourage you to actually grab your ankles here because again, we want to work that knee and hip flexion, pulling ourselves into that tight, compact ball, which is going to help us with our rolling like a ball. It's going to help us get more compact and it's going to help us get down and up off the floor, or if say we go skiing and we fall, it's going to help us get into a small position and back up out of it again, okay? So really good for circulation as well. So let's do the exercise. I'm gonna do two variations. It's a progression. So you're going to reach your legs straight out. You're gonna hold your thighs and then you're gonna bend your knees, grab your ankles. Very simple. Similarly, when you straighten your legs out, grab your thighs and try to bend at your breastbone more, okay? And so you want to master this one before you do this one. So you're going to reach your legs out, circle your arms out to the side and bend. You want to watch that your arms never go lower than your shoulders so that you're keeping your shoulders safe and moving smoothly. Notice how my pelvis doesn't move in that exercise. And then you exit the same way, one at a time, laying down flat. And that is that. So again, actually quite a simple exercise. Once you set yourself up, you know, you just keep moving and grooving. Again, my tip with this is for neck tension, you can put a prop underneath the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. And then also, aside from using your arms, again, making sure you're not lifting your tailbone or your butt off of the ground. That's really important. And just work the endurance, just practice. If you can do 3 good reps, that's more than fine. It's way better than doing 10 sloppy reps where you're arching your back, right? So yeah, I think that basically covers it. If you find, I'm gonna go back to this screen. If you find that these exercises, especially the second one, you're not ready for them yet, they feel like you're missing a few pieces, Then what I suggest is we have some classes on my on-demand platform, the Anonymous Pilates Club, that you can refer to, called Restorative Mat. And basically they're beginner classes, yes, but they are for everyone really, because sometimes you just want a little lower vibe class. But we practice things like just keeping the head down, lifting the leg up to tabletop and then strengthening the core, reaching the legs away from the core. And then we'll put the feet down and we'll do exercises just practicing lifting the head up. So we work a little bit more in a watered down progression to help build the muscles that you need in order to do these exercises that we're working on in our March Madness. So that's it, everyone. If you want to practice these exercises in real time, later on this afternoon, I'm going to upload a video. It's going to be the 100 through to spine stretch forward, which we're going to go over in Monday's tutorial. So that'll be live this afternoon. You can start your free trial at any time, and I'm going to be doing live classes every Friday, and we'll do every single exercise we're covering thus far in March Madness, and that's where I'll go a little bit more in depth of different variations that you can try out. So thanks for watching, everyone. Happy Saturday. Keep shooting me your questions, whether it's on or off screen, and I hope you learned something today. Bye, everyone.